I don't remember attending school before 8.
Do you remember any of your classmates or any of your teachers?
No, don't remember. That period from 1912, when Harry met my mother, it didn't seem like there was much thought about school. They went over to Phoenix. They were over there for a couple of years, and then they came back to Seattle, and they went to Richmond Beach, and they came back to Seattle, and
A lot of moving around.
during all of that moving around and never really knowing just where they were going to finally settle, school seemed to be out of the question. Then in Seattle was when our life really began to get underway. And Margie was born 1915, Dorothy was 2 years old, and I was 8 years old.
Living on Cherry Street.
Living on Cherry Street, and then living on John Street. We lived on John Street for a couple of years, and then they rented a house out in 83rd and Greenwood, out in the north end of Seattle, 350 North 83rd Street. I remember in the springtime, it seemed like disease was rampant because almost every spring that we were there was a quarantine sign on the house. And the Department of Health came around and sealed the doors and windows, and you couldn't get in or out of the house.
So your own house. Did they do that to every house?
Every house where there was sickness.
There was sickness, so there was some sickness in your house.
So there was sickness in our house. It was things like chicken pox, measles, diphtheria, a lot of little things like that were running around.
Childhood illness.
Scarlet fever must have been one because it affected my eyes, and through the school system, Mother had a permit to go downtown and to have my eyes examined. By the time I was about, close to 10 years old, I was wearing glasses.
But before that, you didn't wear glasses?
Before that, I didn't wear glasses. They seemed to think that scarlet fever left its mark. The period when we lived on 83rd Street was a happy period for me. We used to run around and play a lot, but there was also lots of rain, and the street out in front of us was not paved, it was just mud. When there was a heavy rain, why, everything was muddy. I had shoes, of course, but the shoes just got soaking wet every time I was out. Put them by the fire, and the next morning they were stiff and dirty.
What early memories do you have of your mother during that period?
My mother was very happy at that time. She had myself and 2 little girls. Harry, by that time, had gotten a job with the Charles Lilly Company, and they were big in all kinds of garden supplies and farm products. I was getting old enough so that I knew a little bit about what was going on. Of course, I was going to school. On one side of us was a family by the name of the Reagans, and they had several boys, and we played together. On the other side was a family of Jewish people. His name was Elroth. I forget now what his first name was, but Elroth. He and another man by the name of Charlie Trower ran a grocery store down at the corner of 85th and Greenwood. Very nice little grocery store. And it wasn't very long before Joe Elroth asked me if I'd like to come in on Saturday morning and help around the store. So I said, sure.
We're talking your first job?
That was my first job. And I went in and I did all the little things that they asked me to do. But After several weeks of going there on Saturday morning, I began to know what there was around the store, and they had a system where they took telephone orders, and Charlie Trower was the one that really ran the store. Joe Elroth, he bought the goods that they brought into the store, and he owned everything. But Charlie was the one that answered the phone. People would call. Maybe they lived 2 or 3 blocks out of town. 85th Street was the city limits. So they'd call a pretty good size order in. They got so that when they were busy, they'd give me an order and ask me to fill the order. So I would go around and I would do all the things, some few of the things I had to ask about, but pretty soon I got so that I could fill the entire order satisfactorily. And they had apple boxes with numbers on them, and when the order was all filled in this box, apple box, and it was going to be delivered, they'd put a number, take a number off of the box, like a number 110, and they'd mark that on the bottom of the bill, number 110. That's where it went, was to that person's house. And they had a horse and a buggy and a young fellow that delivered all of the groceries.
You didn't deliver groceries?
No. Once in a while, if it was on a rainy night and things were kind of sloppy, they'd ask me to go along and help because things are kind of late. But I never drove the buggy, but I went along a few times.
How old do you think you were at that time?
I imagine around 11 or 12.